Welcome to the Mi Prefecture in Japan. Welcome to Suzuka for round 3 of the Late Night Racing Pro Tier Championship that we are so excited to bring to you today. Exciting. Based on the number of drivers that selected the medium compound, however, I would hypothesize that we're going to get, if we do get rain, we will get it much later on in the race. All the drivers lining up on the grid now, and we are getting ready to turn off those starting lights for round 3 of Late Night Racing Pro Tier Season. All lights on there in the corner, and they come off, and we are going to get started here with the Japanese Grand Prix. El Jefe getting an absolute rocket ship start from the back there, and Anonymous taking the insider, trying to into the first corner. All good for these drivers here, whereas in the back, a little bit more wheel-to-wheel action there as Impervious tries to sneak a move past King Lux, and we have a really lagging Mercedes there in the back. But so far, all of the drivers looking to have gotten out unscathed. Zippy, did you see anything out of the ordinary there?
I just saw Domi making some good positions and going up 4 places to 13, and he's in front of Impervious. He's got in front of his teammates, so he's already on a charge with 2 fast-paced Ferraris. In fact, he's just taken to the grass going to sector 2 and has took 12th place from Sam Kapjay. Domi is on fire.
Absolutely, as Adero dives it down the inside of the hairpin against Anonymous in the Renault and comes out with the position, elevating himself up into 4th place. Domi up 7 places now, sizing up the Ferrari of Blue Mars now into the spoon curve, committing to the inside line. Is he going to try to dive it? Surely no, but he is already up by 7 places, and El Jefe as well ahead, up by 5. Immediately behind Domi, there's a whole host of cars there fighting it out for positions. We have Sam Kapjay going side by side with Rifler, and we'll get a better angle of that here from Alex Parita's Ferrari, and that is now Sam Kapjay up into 12th position. Rifler losing out massively on the start as the Alfa Romeo dives the Ferrari into the Casio triangle, nearly making contact down the inside, pulling out at the very last second and compromising a whole line of cars behind it as well, with the drivers shuffling around on the timing board. But on the track, I can assure you, everything is correct. At the moment, Ace is leading the Grand Prix as we have yellow flags there in Sector 2, and that appears to be Sam Kapjay in the Alfa Romeo, spun around facing the wrong way on exit from the second Degner. He does recover, and it does look like he's not running any damage on board his car at the moment. Here, the Williams, for the time being, he's looking to the inside of the hairpin, locking up the Williams driver, giving him plenty of room, but getting a better exit, and Adero lets the rear end slip out, and now he's got to worry about defending as much as attacking. He's got Anonymous in the Renault looking for revenge, going to the inside of the spoon curve. Side by side, these 2 drivers, and Adero just getting forced out ever so slightly, coming back onto the track with better drive. And they are still side by side here on the back straight, leading to 130R. Who will be braver to stick the foot in? Who has more overtake left? Adero catching a little bit of grass on entry. That's going to slow him down a little bit, running wide off the track. And he gets out ahead of Anonymous. Now, that was an overtake with all 4 wheels off the track, so surely the stewards will take a look at that after the race. There's both drivers using the track to all that it has to offer, and we have a yellow flag with Sam Kapjay spun again through the Dunlop curve there in the first sector. Now, the Ferrari of Alex Parita and Domi also side by side on exit from the hairpin. Let's see if these 2 drivers are as capable of giving each other the room as we saw with Adero and Anonymous. Sam Kapjay unfortunately departing from the session. The tight gap as it looks like Adero makes a move on quad, following the same scheme roughly that he used against Anonymous, but the Williams driver crucially maintaining his distance directly in front and closing that inside line down into the spoon curve. But of course, Quad has those soft tires as he nearly spins the car coming out of the spoon curve, and that is going to compromise his run. But look at how much straight line speed he has. I'm not sure if that is aero setup or in a very egregious use of overtake, but he recovers back. Oh, and look at on board, on the steering wheel, on board Adero's T-cam, you can see that he had only 3% of battery left down the entirety of that straight, and now that's Anonymous moving to the inside of the Racing Point driver on the start-finish straight. Both drivers having their DRS open, and is Anonymous going to try to make it a 2-for-1? He does not, running a little bit wide into the first corner, and Adero crisscrosses the line and gets his position back expert level stuff for the Racing Point driver, but the gap crucially from Quad to Show to now 6 seconds. And unfortunately, Adero losing out. And we're just gonna hit that replay button and take a look at that action between Adero and Quad as Quad nearly loses his car on exit from the spoon curve.
It was said to me that it was going to be a difficult track for a lot of drivers to find a consistent line. And, you know, it feels so much longer, this track, due to the technicality of the turns. And he's hoping he can keep it together and get into rhythm and set down some good laps and bring home some good points for this Renault team.
Absolutely. Larson suffering a spin there through the first sector. Red Bull as well in 6th position, just a little less than half a second behind. Now, Anonymous lining up Adero down the start-finish straight again into the first corner. Now, of course, the Renault driver is on softs, and one could imagine that his tires will start going off soon, but from this angle, we can see that Adero is running wing damage, the right end plate missing from his right wing, and it is compromising him significantly through this first sector that is so aero-dependent, and Anonymous able to make that move stick against the Racing Point driver, who now has to defend against Ant.
Pit stop at a critical time as Larson tires are down to 16 drivers.
And that is a virtual safety car by the looks of it. We're looking on the track to see the Williams of Larson beached on exit from turn 2. And that is unfortunately him out of the race. Meanwhile, both Quad and Anonymous coming into the pits to replace their soft tires, and this is crucially important for them. This is a perfect opportunity at nearly the perfect time to get a free pit stop in, something that Shonen and Adero, well, Adero taking advantage of this as well, as two cars nearly collide. They goes through each other actually on pit exit here, but Adero trying to repair that front wing damage. Unfortunately, the extra time required to take that wing off and put the new one on.
Right.
He is, crucially though, he did get ahead of Quad, who he was trailing on the way. Oh, and we, it looks like we actually have a driver spun on immediately after the hairpin, and that looks like Ant also out of this race, and another virtual safety car called for the Red Bull driver, who will be unable to continue. That car is unfortunately in the wall.
People think about the twisty turns and, you know, the circuit overlapping each other. You know, it's so important. There's lots of high-speed corners here, particularly in Sector 2. You know, your 6th gear and the main straights, and you've got some hairpins with really difficult braking. So I think if your concentration just wanes for one millisecond, I think that if you're not focused on your shift points and you're not flat out and you don't nail those inside curves, I think you're going to really struggle. You know, there's a reason I think that this race is here quite early on in the pro race tour this season, because if they could at least get the 4 wheels on the tarmac.
Yeah, very accurate stuff there, Zippy. And another thing that I do want to contribute to that sentiment, oh my goodness, as Eleanor Reifler spins his car out here on exit from the first corner, and he is having so much difficulty right now. I almost wonder if he has a puncture or something, but he is having a hard time following your advice there, precisely on that, on keeping it on the track. Fortunately, keeping it out of the wall, though. We'll just catch that on replay really briefly, as he just looked to suffer a snap of oversteer, end up on the grass there, and that, unfortunately, is, well, that's that for the McLaren driver here.
But yellows in Sector 1 and 2 again. And he's just ambling around in 12th place at the moment. We've not really discussed him, as Adero comes right behind Blue Mars and takes him on the inside in Sector 2, and has moved up into 8th place with El Jefe down the road.
Now that seems to be a move that not a lot of drivers expect, and that is what is allowing Adero to catch them off guard into the hairpin, diving it expertly, not necessarily risking any damage, but pulling off a great overtake, getting a crucially great exit, and now
Alex,
Adero...
sorry to interrupt, but Alex Bridger has just spun twice down in 15th place. I think he's lost a bit of his front wing. Had a bad day for the Ferraris really so far, and he's lost it twice now, which is why you're seeing all the yellow flags turning up, and he's finally back on the road. But, you know, Alex Bridger is normally a pretty strong driver in this season. He's been the reserve a couple of times. Some good drivers here are finding this race a little bit difficult, and he's gone off again.
That is right. He is overlapped down now on Shonen, who is in the lead in, well, much of a solitary role now that Ace has pitted for his new tires. But hopefully Alex can get back to the pits and potentially repair that damage, fit himself a fast compound of tires. And you never know with this track, with the amount of mistakes we're seeing out of all the drivers here, as it looks like Impervious there has retired from the session. We're about to see his car here coming up on the left. In through turn number 6. There it is on exit. Whoops. And there is a safety car on the course. This definitely allows drivers such as Alp to get a free stop in, to fit a new set of tires to replace his 11-lap-old softs, and it allows Shonen, our race leader, his free pit stop, and unfortunately that clears Adero's advantage from the previous VSC. Zippy, the powerhouse in F1 knowledge, as Race Control confirms to us that the safety car will be going in this lap. Very, very late confirmation, and surely this will have an impact on the restart here. Something similar to the scenes we saw at Mugello. Now Ace slowing the pack down all the way to the start-finish line, getting a good getaway. Now Shonen on the hard tires, not so fortunate, moving to the inside defensively, trying to make sure the Williams of Quad doesn't overtake him. Meanwhile, oh, in the back, King Looks overtaking Rifler, now going side by side with El Jefe through turn 2, unable to make that move work, but up into 9th for the Renault driver. And now Eleanor Rifler has been demoted towards his teammate, Tony Montana, who is himself fighting Blue Mars in the Ferrari.
Adero was right alongside El Jefe down the main straight and pulled on the left side. He had 2 wheels on the grass, but decided to stick it all around the outside and took El Jefe pretty well. El Jefe is coming back. Oh, he's got ahead of Adero. Adero's gone back onto the grass, and El Jefe has took 7th place, and I think he might still. Oh, he's just behind El Jefe. We've got a yellow in sector 1, sector 2. There's a McLaren which went off. I've gone green, but El Jefe and Adero having a great battle. Adero trying to take 6th place without, and he's all over the back of the second Mercedes. And Adero's trying to get out to this Mercedes sandwich to try and catch the rest of the drivers. And we've just seen King Lux maybe just slightly take El Jefe off the track there, but El Jefe still going on in 8th place. Keep going, El Jefe. He comes to 4 in this race.
Adero side by side with Alp down the back straight, leading to 130R, pulling off the overtake, using some phenomenal traction out of the spoon curve. So that is Adero up into 6th position. Relapse, meanwhile, unable to make an impression at the moment against Anonymous. As I say that, he pulls to the inside of the first corner now, looking to capitalize and gain that position against the Renault driver. He does, and elevates himself up into 4th position. Those softs will be usable for quite a while yet, so he is going to look to extend his... Oh my goodness! And we have... Wow! What a collision! El Jefe off the track and into the wall in Sector 1. And we just barely caught that on our camera here as we were with Alp, who had fallen behind him, just getting a little bit of oversteer.
Through Sector 2, and that's really important for Adero's race because he doesn't want relapse to get too far up that road. Anonymous is trying to fight back at him, but it was a pretty risky maneuver, but he actually took it pretty well, and Anonymous was a good driver with great respect for Adero, and he took him on the inside. And relapses up the road. I'll be interested to see if he can get past him pretty soon.
Meanwhile, Shonen lighting things up front here. As we were wondering, he's not allowed Ace to escape up the road on those medium tires, and one might expect that Shonen will just park it as he sets the best lap of the race so far. Might just park it behind the rear wing of the Red Bull and wait until his tires fall off a cliff. Closely behind, putting him under some immense pressure. Is he gonna do the Kobayashi overtake into the hairpin again? He pulls to the inside, and he does! He dives it, locking up the front inside tire, and he takes 4th position from relapse as we have yellow flags in Sector 2.
This race, he looks like he's on for a good points finish at the moment. He's only got 6 points in the championship, but this will definitely catapult him a bit higher in the rankings.
Now Adero going side by side with Quad in the Kobayashi hairpin, and this time unable to sell that move, unable to get through on the traction. Very frustrating for Adero now, as Relapse still staying very close to these drivers, and crucially, Shonen getting within the DRS window of Ace for the race lead. So many close battles right now out on track, and one could imagine that if Relapse saves up enough DRS there, you'll be able to make an impression. But now Adero dives the move into the Casio triangle, nearly loses his car. The Williams of Quad also nearly losing it. Now going side by side with Relapse down the start-finish straight, concedes 2 positions in a matter of 3 corners, and that is Quad down to P5. Unfortunate for the Williams driver. That is Adero into the podium positions now. Now, Relapse keeping those tires in temperatures. We're going to switch on board with Shonen, who launches a convincing move down the outside of Ace into the Casio triangle, overtaking the Red Bull driver for the race lead, and now he has only 3 laps to be able to pull out a gap of 3 seconds against the Red Bull driver. We will keep an eye out and see if he's able to do just that. Meanwhile, jumping back with Anonymous now, a quarter of a second behind the Williams of Quad, but all these cars having DRS off the car in front, and unable to make an overtake. Relapse driving impeccably to keep those tires functioning at the moment, as Anonymous is a little bit slow to get out of the first couple of corners, and he collides with Domi. He collides with Domi and takes the AlphaTauri driver off the track. We're going to take a look at that at our LNR instant replay there, side by side into turns 3, 4, and just tapping the inside of the AlphaTauri car and spinning him around. So unfortunate, but that is Emerald Domi losing out significantly now and unable to rejoin this fight. But, well, if you break the rules, you have to be willing to face the hammer. Everybody's in an equal situation here, and all drivers really ideally want to give enough respect and receive enough in return. Anonymous now, well, he's not worried about that penalty for the time being. He's going side by side with Quad into the first corner. Quad shows him the runoff area and says, "No thank you, I will not be having you around my outside through turns 1 and 2. That is another yellow flag there in the middle sector. Alp looks to be absolutely hating his tires at the moment, or what's left of them. The leader's just a second and a half clear of Ace, but that surely will not be enough to seal the win for him, and he is going to cross the line in first, but descend down to second as Ace crosses the line. Back on board now with our gladiators here in the middle of the points-paying pack. And Anonymous all over the back of Quad, dipping into the grass and gravel on exit from the Casio triangle, but he is unable to make that overtake as they cross the line. That is Relapse in 4th position, scoring his first points of the season. Quad immediately behind, and Anonymous in 6th.
Anonymous had quite a few penalties as well, so actually it's 8 seconds after Quad, but a great race really. It'd be fantastic to hear about the drivers. We've had a few people comment on Twitch. Thank you for this. Make sure you stay around, and driver of the day, Relapse, and I would have given to Relapse myself. Great race from you.
Really unbelievable stuff. I would have never imagined he would make those softs stick to the end. But meanwhile, Ace celebrating his win in the Japanese Grand Prix, and we finally have someone that is able to give the Racing Point drivers something to think about. Great work by the Aston Martin Red Bull Racing driver, and that will elevate him even closer to the Racing Point pair in the driver standings. Let's run really briefly through our grid over at the conclusion of this Japanese Grand Prix that did in fact stay dry and largely actually sunny. It is Ace in 1st position, Shonen immediately behind him in 2nd. Both drivers, actually, Ace had 5 seconds of penalty, Shonen had 8. So both must have picked up a pit stop infringement or something of the sort. Adero immediately behind them, rounding out the podium in 3rd. Then Relapse with a sensational drive from 15th on the grid in 4th position. Quad in 5th. Anonymous in 6th. Blue Mars in 7th. Tony Montana 8th. Emerald Domi 9th after his dramatic spin. And Rifler in 10th position. Both McLarens scoring points today. Then behind them, Alp, who has had an absolute nightmare final stint, but still being classified in 11th position. And then behind him, King Lux down by 3 laps, having DNF towards the end of the race. And all the drivers who are not classified: El Jefe, Alex Parida, Impervious, Ant Larson, Gajaime, and Sam Capj.